Hey everybody, welcome to our VR talk and discussion show, VR Game Nights. My name is Greta Gamer, and tonight I'm joined by my co-host, who's here every week, Agascus Cleese. And I always have a hard time saying Agascus Cleese.
No
But
worries, no
how
worries
you
at all.
doing, Aga? See, he said I could call him Aga for short. What a nice guy. How you
No,
doing, my friend?
I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good. The wheels of the train are appropriately lubricated as we are rolling into. Well, we're not really rolling into E3 because apparently the industry has decided that with fewer people attending, that they'll just start it 2 weeks early. So it's like 3 weeks of E3. But it is what it is. So yeah, we're the E2KG group is hyped, and we've been tracking lots of stuff for the last few weeks, which includes some VR stuff going on at
Which is
E3 next week.
awesome. And I
Yeah.
should mention that Sir Aga, because we're game nights, right? Sir Aga is has a channel, Rounding Off Infinity, and the E2KG network, and you'll find both those links in the discussion. I want to say discussion area in the comments. Discussion areas from work, and of course I'm from the Gamer Show, and live from the Oasis is our VR series that we do. We had a lot of fun tonight. Thank you everybody who joined in, and we're going to jump right into this week's news, and it's kind of the lull before the storm. And I wanted to get this story in that you had, Aga. I wanted to get this in first. Can you hit this Oculus Quest shortage story?
Well, that's very interesting because what I was going to mention in the intro is that we're probably going to have a fight tonight with a complicated, possibly controversial topic that I definitely wanted to get into, and it's going to stem from this article. I had this knit in my jaw earlier in the week, and then this article kind of hit upon it. So yeah, um, and you did say this is about the Oculus Quest shortage, right? Yeah, so you
Yes. Yep.
moved. So yeah, so over on Venture Beat, there is a story posted by Bobby Carlton, who talks about how, well, first of all, I guess what we're seeing around the market is that the Oculus Quest dropped in May, shipping starts launching on May 21st, and now it's really difficult to get a hold of one. Gray has one. Um, but if you are to go onto Amazon or Walmart or Best Buy or Newegg and try and buy one now, you're probably going to see a thing that says, hey, it's probably going to be 1 to 2 months before you get yours. Um, and he goes into a lot about how that's a good market indicator for uptake. There's no word necessarily from Facebook on how many they manufactured in that first run. I haven't seen any sales data unless you have, Gray. Um, but it's out there, and there's lots of anecdotal things about I went into Best Buy and I saw a mom in there buying one for her daughter for a college or a graduation gift because she thought it would be cool for her to take it to college, and then we could be in VR together, and so on and so on. Lots of nice and happy flowery stuff. Um, and as a market indicator, I agree that it's probably, well, I agree that it's a healthy sign for the market. There's two concerns I have, one of which is more controversial than the other. Well, one which might be more controversial, but it's the one that I'm less wrapped around the axle about. We're talking a lot. There's a lot of conversation now that we're having, stemming partially from my experience streaming in over the last months and diving deep into streaming and some brief time that I spent with the Twitch community, and Matt Piscatella, who is an analyst with the MPD group, is kind of echoing some of these concerns about streaming services. So I was talking about gamers live streaming the games they're playing. Matt has an ongoing stream of consciousness in his Twitter feed about over-the-top streaming services in terms of streaming games to gamers, like Google Stadia and Microsoft's xCloud. And he talks a lot about a thing that I had been observing from the street level, I guess, which is there's a large part of the gaming consumer market that doesn't pay for games. They play free to play stuff. They don't make microtransactions. Where it becomes difficult is where that demographic overlaps with the people who are at the same time being very vocal about the state of a game. So you have a lot of Fortnite players and Apex players who don't pay anything into the market, who jump up and down and rage with gamer entitlement about the state of the game. That's an issue to be contended with. And then there's things about what that may indicate as far as these over-the-top streaming services delivering games to gamers, and the market analysis that was done beforehand that said, hey, the way we can get more gamers into the market is by removing the hardware barrier. But the people who aren't buying the hardware are also the people who, if they do have the hardware, aren't paying for games, and so you don't really know that they're going to pay $10, $15, $20 a month for a streaming service. At any rate, my point of this is one of the things that I've been musing about and talking about on podcasts is sometimes in some of these markets, in some of these communities, it's not always a great net community level impact when more people are able to access the market. It gets crowded. You get some people in the community that you would prefer to not have in the community, and you get some people who are very vocal who aren't constrained by how much they're paying into the market. So that's one piece of it. As the VR price comes down, you're going to get more people involved in VR. That's going to bring a flood of voices joining the commentary on satisfaction or dissatisfaction with VR, and that may not always necessarily be a net good. That's the smaller thing. The bigger thing that I'm wrapped around the axle about, and I'm really having a problem with, is that there seems to be this articulation of the Quest, and here's where we may fight, of the Quest being better. And before you rage, it's not just about the Quest. It's this notion that the VR kits that provide experiences that are at such a high fidelity that they require to be backed and supported by the power of a high-end PC, that's a constraint. And it is, and it isn't. But it is, but I don't like the way I hear them articulate. It's as if connecting a VR headset to a PC is some antiquated, outmoded technical solution. And I'm like, A, it's not, and B, it's not going away. Like the way you get high-end gaming experiences is by bringing the power of a 710, 12 nanometer SoC, right, embedded on a GPU with 8 gigabytes of GDDR5, soon to be GDDR6, rendering across a PCI 3.0 or 4.0 pipeline. I love mobile processors in ARM, but ARM and Snapdragons and their associated Mali GPUs just aren't going to be able to render the power that a gaming PC does when connected with a VR headset. So Quest is a thing that needs to exist. It is a thing that needs to exist in parallel with, and here's where we might fight, because I don't know how to articulate with big time AAA VR. Like, I don't know how to. I mean, I know you get great experiences on Quest when you're untethered. However, I don't believe you're going to get a digital combat simulator, high-end super render graphics with flight model, right? You're right. It's just not the same. So I have a problem with that. There seems to be a lot of articulation going on that's coupled to this concept that Rift Vive and WMR really all got it wrong by tethering themselves to a PC. And I'm like, no, that's our access to power. The next advancement of that is if you can decouple it. But at the same token, even when you decouple from a cable, it's going to be just like when we used to hate using wireless mice for gaming, right? It just didn't provide the fidelity and the precision that we need. Then it achieved a point where it was good enough, but still, and it's the same argument with Wi-Fi versus Ethernet, right? Like, yeah, Wi-Fi gaming, multiplayer gaming has hit a point where it's probably in 88% of the cases good enough. However, by simple physics, it's never going to be as good as being on a cable. And that's where I think VR is, and that I feel like there's a part that's getting lost in the mix where there's this discussion that untethered headsets are better. And I'm like, well, they're better from a mobility standpoint, but they are inherently, at the end of the day, less powerful.
Well, I think that brings up two things. The first thing is It reminds me of the Wii. When the Wii came out, I mean, I'm a PC gamer, I'm a Xbox gamer, I'm a PlayStation gamer. When the Wii came out, we got one, and it was fun. And it had experiences on it that were unique and fun enough to justify its existence. And it didn't detract from me and you playing Battlefield on the Xbox, right? It was its own thing. And I think if you look at most of the popular, really, really popular VR games right now, a lot of them can run on the Quest. So I think that's why the Quest has been so popular because it's nice to get rid of the cable. It really is great to get rid of the cable. I mean, it's just a sense of freedom. You don't have to worry about the cable. Now, like you said with Wi-Fi, you know, I'm plugged in. I'm 1 gig. I'm 1 gig everywhere in the house. Okay, I go 1 gig right from here, right to the router that goes into the cable modem. Right. So you know, is everybody in my house 1 gig? No. A lot of the family rooms are wired with 10 meg, Cat 5, whatever. But bottom line is, yeah, I want the best experience, and there is a point where, depending on what you're playing, if you're not playing a really twitchy game, Wi-Fi's fine, 5G is fine. Um, Conversely, we're gonna get a point where your Rift S or your Vive Pro or your Index is gonna have a really really good. And I think it's that new 60 gigahertz. I forget what they call it, but it's the next step, right, in high-speed Wi-Fi. And I think
Yeah, this is the
that's when we're going to get tetherless, you know, high-end PC headsets. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
right. No, right. I know what you're talking about. I don't. I think it'll be a while, if ever. I mean, that the current implementation of that is it's supporting IoT, so it's sending very small, very narrow bit width data that is single purpose. You know, versus the complexity that might be required for local Wi-Fi. The transmission technology potentially definitely is a step in that evolution in the right direction. The other thing though is, and I think I see where you're headed. You know, there's a point where ARM, Snapdragon, Mali, things like the Quest are eventually going to achieve a compute level where well, are eventually going to achieve a VR rendering level where there's less of a span between parity and non-parity. I think part of the thing too, though, is it's not just the VR rendering, but it's the game engine compute, right? Like part of the reason that you can get a digital combat simulator VR experience is because you have a machine that's just capable of running digital combat simulator, right? And then pushing pushing the graphics processing part of that to VR is the extra thing that you need the extra oomph for. Um, but I mean, I feel like again, those are experiences that are always at the end of the day going until we make a quantum jump, and I don't literally mean quantum computing, but until we make a big jump in ARM architecture processor, I just don't. I think we're years away from seeing the highest fidelity experiences. You know, the Project Cars 2 level, you know, race engine, physics engine, and flight combat simulators and space simulators and things like that being rendered on an ARM on a standalone headset running off of ARM compute.
Yeah, I think I look at this. If we look into the future, we will have when you buy a game, you'll be able to play it anywhere. Okay, whether it be on your PC, your mobile device, your mobile VR headset, doesn't matter, right? So we're seeing a little bit of that now with Fortnite, right? You can play Fortnite on pretty much anything, right? It's the same game. It's your same login. It's your same character. You can play it on PS4, Xbox, PC. It's a free game, so you don't have to actually buy it on all of those, right? But with something like Minecraft, you have to pick it up and buy it on every platform. So it's not buy everywhere, buy once, play everywhere. But the play anywhere is coming. That's the future, and that may be morphed, or convoluted by streaming. Because quite honestly, once you're streaming at high speeds, once we have high speed, I don't know if it's 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, but once we have super high speed networks, it really, and this goes back to, and there's a company I know, Linus Tech Tips visited them and talked about them, and they do streaming now to any device. Like high-end PC in their office, and they'll stream it to any device, Android, iPhone, PC, whatever, right? Lag free. They don't do VR yet, but that'll come too. So that's the future, right? Will what will happen? Will we get like the Fortnite experience where you can play it on any device because it's been compiled for all these different processors? Or will it just be, hey, everybody just, I mean, most of these games are popular because they're multiplayer games. Well, if you already have to be online, then I'm thinking as a developer, better just to stream it to everybody than to actually have to compile 20 different versions. You know what I'm saying? So you have a client, you download it to your device, boom, you connect to their servers, and you play with them. So that's the future. Right now, I think we could just we get these niche case studies where, or niche case use case instances where the Quest does take some of the funnest VR games and untethers it. Now, those funnest VR games, they're not the Elite Dangerous, they're not the DCS, right? They're not the Project Cars 2s, they're the Beat Sabers, right? They're the virtual realities, they're the job simulators, right? So,
Right.
so that's where I think we are now. And so I think the Oculus Quest is filling a little bit of that role in VR that the Wii did for consoles.
Right. Yep.
It's given people unique opportunities, unique gameplay, kind of in an in between area. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? We're past the Gen 1, we're kind of mature Gen 1, but we're not tetherless on the PC. So that's my thought process.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think my biggest thing that I'm railing against is I've numerous times seen written in a blog post or an article and elsewhere in the media or heard, that that being tethered to the PC is a constraint, and I'm like, it's not a constraint. It's bringing big power to the fight, right? Like, so I mean, today that's what it is to me. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, my wish is I wish more games supported VR. So you got Project Cars 2, you got Elite Dangerous, you got all these AAA games that have added VR support. So you buy the game, play in VR, play outside of VR. That's awesome. I wish more games would do it. Like Elder Scrolls Online, I wish they would do that. And um, the new Halo title coming out, that would be great. How about Sea of Thieves? I mean, there's all these premium experiences that would be awesome in VR, right?
so so down that vein, I guess one thing I wanted to ask you, because a lot of these games, like you mentioned, are multiplayer, and we're going to talk later. I've been playing a lot of Overload on PC in VR mode, and it's a multiplayer game. I haven't dipped into multiplayer, but one of the things I've talked about on my streams is that one of the big advantages I feel like being inside the visor is that's a 6 degree of freedom game. I think we've mentioned it on this podcast before that it's a spiritual successor to the Descent series, directly Descent 3. One of the huge advantages it provides is I can be moving forward, sliding right, and then the huge advantage in VR is I can be looking out the left window, right? So when you're not in VR, you can't do that. And so one of the things that I started playing that game made me start to question is, if it's a multi mode, right? If it supports both conventional gaming and VR, in multiplayer, would the VR players have an advantage in certain games?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right,
Yeah, I mean, just think of Rec Room when you're playing paintball and you can tilt, you can kind of
right,
like look around the corner.
right. Yeah, you can lean.
Huge advantage. I mean, there's no lean mechanism in any game. I have tons of games.
Right,
Many had
right,
lean mechanisms. None of them were like some of the old Rainbow Six games. None of them were that you could do that quick or duck that
right,
quick.
right,
And
right,
yeah, huge advantage. Now, the only reason I don't play Elite Dangerous in VR is because it's kind of nauseating. I stream that. We have a great community that watches our Elite cast, and I think it's nauseous for people to watch somebody going like this all the time because
yeah,
that's what I end up doing. I end up just looking all over the place all the
right,
time, like you're driving in NASCAR. It's kind of like.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
huge advantage. I totally agree with you on that. Hey, tell me about the Electronauts. You get some news on that?
yeah, just ish. The only reason this caught my eye is because what's very interesting with VR is the conventional gaming market kind of bled all of the consumer demand out of the rhythm game genre, and you eventually to the point where harmonics just basically folded up for a short period of time and then was resurrected. Um, so I thought this was interesting, just because this Electronauts is, I guess it's something that puts you in a costume that kind of looks like you're a member of Daft Punk. And specifically, this, by the way, this article was sourced over on Upload VR, entitled Daft Punk Style VR DG Game Electronauts coming to Oculus Quest June 6th. So tomorrow, this game drops and is apparently a DJ rhythm game. I want to say this one is going to come out available for Quest. I'm not absolutely positive. Um, but it's a DJ, um, you know, game. And actually, it's available on. Yeah, so this, I'm sorry, it says right in the title. It is coming to Quest on June 6th. It has already previously been released for PSVR,
Yeah.
and was $20. So we don't know exactly the cost that it's going to be at drop, but this article projects that it will probably also be $20. And so includes a bunch of tracks for you to have fun with and get your DJ on, your electronic synth drum, and that kind of stuff. Again, I didn't really pay as much attention to the physics, but to the specifics. But I know that Beat Saber is a huge game on VR, and this looks like another rhythm game kind of built in the same vein. So I thought it would be interesting to note it and let people know that it drops tomorrow.
Yeah, I want to follow that up with another story I found about To the Top. Now, To the Top is available on PC. It's available on PSVR. It's never been a game that I was very interested in, although I could see competitive multiplayer being a lot of fun. I don't know if it has cooperative multiplayer, but the developer, these indie developers, they work long hours, they work very hard, they have to fund these things themselves. They worked with Oculus through the whole process to get it ready for the Quest. They had it ready for the Quest. They even had multiplayer working between the Rift and the Quest, which I think is pretty amazing. I like it when games do that. And then at the very last moment, Oculus said no, you cannot release To the Top on the Quest. And I want to throw this out there because if anybody knows anybody at Oculus, this doesn't seem like it's very professional to lead a company on, have them think probably thousands of development hours into a game and say yes all the way into release day and then say no, you cannot. You cannot release it on the Quest. So, you know, I know there's a lot of great people over at Oculus. Carmack being one of them, right? That guy is awesome. I love reading his tweets. He's just such a professional and such a real person, right? But you know, not that I'm going to buy it because it's not my type of game, but To the Top. I mean, how can a company lead you on and tell you time and time and time again that yes, we're going to let you release this game on the Quest, it's on the Rift, it's on the PC, it's on the PSVR, and then at the very last minute tell them they can't release it. I mean, if it was a Fortune 500 company, no big deal, but this is a small developer. I didn't think it was I just think it maybe some confusion inside of Oculus and maybe some wires get crossed, but I just throw this out to Oculus, just throw this pledge, this plea out to Oculus and out to the community. If anybody knows anybody there, it just doesn't seem like it was an honest, professional way to handle business. As somebody who's worked on projects that cost millions of dollars, this would be you'd be terminated if you did something like this. I mean, even if it was a $50,000 project, it's just not acceptable business practice in the United States in 2019. So I think it's probably just a big mix up, But we'll put again all these stories, all the links are in the description. But yeah, please chime in and please put a good word for this developer because the unit, I mean, the graphics look just as good as the PSVR, so which is pretty good.
Yeah, this is tough, and I think that there's a lot of this going around, not just in gaming, but in the mobile space as well. There is this churning that's going on in the app-driven economy and storefronts and um, and cultivated content delivery repositories, where I think everybody. And this is, I mean, I bash on Apple all the time, but admittedly, this is not easy. It is not easy to figure out how to be a digital Amazon-like storefront for content, but then for a hardware platform that you own. Um, and while I could definitely see that this may not have been handled as best as it could, as an outside observer, I can say, yeah, but this is also kind of the growing pain. Right? These are the mistakes that unfortunately, and sometimes people wind up suffering for them. These are unfortunately the mistakes that happen, the casualties that occur in the effort to stand up, part of what is a new economy essentially in a specific market. I mean, I think the Epic Game Store is going through this. These guys are going through this. I think there are moves afoot in terms of technology that have the potential to rip away, the way Valve takes 30% and the iStore take 30%. So I don't think this is the last time we will see something like this going on.
Yeah, I think what was egregious to me on this one was that the game's been out,
Right.
multi-platform. There was no question what it was like. I mean, it's been in the news quite a bit. It's been in all the stores quite a bit,
Right.
and so it's a known entity. And to say yes to yes, 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 yes up until release day, and then to say no,
Yeah.
it's just totally unprofessional. I'm sure it's just a honest to goodness mistake and mix up, and hopefully somebody will, just say, hey, we made a mistake. And again,
Right.
it's not a game that I'm going to play, but it looks like a fun game, and it seems to have done well on the other platforms.
Yeah. Now, did Facebook say no and that's final, not ever, or did they say no? Here are the things you need to go work on in order to get it to get our green light to put it on Quest.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. There was no. It's not like Alt Space VR that was told, look, you're not maintaining, I don't know, 72 hertz refresh. You
Right.
need to maintain 72 hertz throughout the whole thing, or else you
Right.
can't launch. It wasn't that. It was just like, no, we're not putting that game on the Quest.
Wow.
After a year of saying yes, yes, yes. So, hey, before we get into E3, which is kind of, I think, why news is a little light this week, um, I just want to remind folks not only is um, the Viveport Infinity subscription, which I do not have, the Viveport Infinity subscription, not only are they offering 2 free months to Rift owners and Index owners, but they're also just started supporting Windows Mixed Reality. I don't know why they don't offer the WMR people 2 months free as well, because I haven't seen that anywhere. But I own two, right? I own a Lenovo and an Acer. But in any case, just throwing that out there if anybody wants to know. We'll talk about a new game that came out exclusive to Viveport Infinity. But in any case, let's move into E3. And I think we were kind of joking about the saga about Upload VR having its very own, or maybe it was on Reddit, its very own VR showcase at E3. It's like, aren't they like a gaming site? Why are they having their own press conference?
Well, this is too. Again, I think this is also part of the changing face of E3, right? As you have the manufacturers walk back away from it, as you have elements of the big five public, the big five publishers walk back from it. Um, in terms of EA's not really doing an E3 in the way that they've traditionally done an E3. Activision is not there at all this year. Things like that. You have these new opportunities where I forget what the company's called. It's something that starts with an L. It's like live run or little run or something gaming. It's a very small publisher who now like has a thing at E3. But maybe more notably are things like the Kind of Funny Games Daily showcase, where a lot of your big indie titles are going to be now that they don't have as big a platform to be shown off on when you don't have PlayStation there. And when you have Xbox now owning a lot more first party studios, I anticipate that there's not going to be a ton of indie time spent at the Xbox press conference. So now KGFD has kind of arrived to showcase those guys. This is a cool turn of events. And yeah, I think unfortunately, I guess at the end of the day, the people who are best positioned to showcase VR as its own thing in an egalitarian manner, right? Meaning not firmly ensconced in one manufacturer's camp or another, right? So Facebook by themselves isn't big enough to maybe warrant doing a VR showcase, or HTC or Valve. So it's cool that it winds up being again a content publisher, just like KGFD is doing the indies to champion this cause, I guess.
Yeah, I really like what PC Gamer started doing. Now, I had to cancel my subscription for content issues that they put on the front cover. Some things I don't want the grandkids seeing. But that said, once your grandkids can start reading, you start thinking about that stuff. Um, but in any case, I really like what PC Gamer did with their showcase. I don't know if they're doing it this year. I haven't watched it only because, I almost really switched from consoles. I've always been a PC gamer, but I kind of switched spending most of my time on consoles to most of my time in VR. So I really like this. It really feels like they're taking after what PC Gamer did,
Right.
and I'm excited about it. I'm like kind of sad that all our other favorite VR magazines aren't part of this because we have
Mm,
not Upload, we have Road to VR, we have VR Scout, we have all these other sites we love to view. But in any case, kudos to Upload. I'm glad they were able to unite all these people and bring this to us, and I'm excited for it. It's almost like the Microsoft or EA or Activision press conference for VR. So
yeah.
it's pretty exciting.
It's going to be interesting to see how effective it is. And one aside, so yeah, PC Gamer is doing their PC game showcase this year. I think it is Tuesday, um, early afternoon at like 1 p.m. Um, and it is being sponsored by the Epic Game Store.
Oh, all
But
right.
one of the things that's going to be interesting is to see how effective this is, because one of the problems that I've always had, even as a burgeoning VR youngling, um, years ago, was when everybody else was rah rah about VR. One of the problems I had was, well, but you can't really see it. Like, it's hard to convey the experience, and I'm not really convinced, or like not really clear in my head, like what do you show? Because VR trailers, I don't think aren't aren't really effective in terms of conveying like the VR experience, right? You wind up seeing the 2D screen mirror, of the VR headset. So man, that's going to be tough. I don't know how you show an effective like consumer encouraging demonstration with a VR trailer. So
You need a lot of imagination. You really do. You need a lot of imagination to get psyched up for a 3D product that you're seeing a
yeah,
commercial in 2D. But it's like, when I was playing Star Trek Bridge Crew tonight, it was just awesome. And I'm just like, I can just look around. I can do this, this, and this. I can pull out my
right.
tablet. It's just, and I think somebody watching can get that same feeling. Like, look at, he's looking to his left. He's looking to his right. He's, and it is a lot of fun. But yeah, you're right. You
Well,
can't actually. I don't think it's in 3D. They say VR headset's
right.
not required, but I don't know if they're doing it in 360 or not. It'd be cool if they were.
Yeah, or if this is a thing where, I mean, it would be interesting if, like, well, to me, part of it is this is a great use of like where you could use HoloLens, um then the question is, is this a thing? Can you, but it's so hard to do shared space experiences. If you could do shared space experiences, people could walk in and maybe you could give everybody Google Cardboard, right? And have them view it. But it'll be interesting. I'm very curious to see the technical approach that they take with this. But in general, it's just cool that the industry, the market has gotten big enough to warrant, a 2 hour event showing 30 games.
Yeah,
That there's 30 games in VR ready to go.
in addition to that, Oculus is pretty pumped about E3. They say that they got 50 games for the Quest now. They're going to have 100 by the end of the year. They're going to have all kinds of show floor stuff to show, and so we get a link in the comments. You'll see it, but they're just really pumped. They're like, we're going to come in with all this great new stuff and blow you away. So I'm very excited about that too. Now,
are they doing a press conference? Or are they just going to be on the show floor?
My understanding is that they're going to be on the show floor, that they don't have their own press conference now.
Gotcha.
But they say they're going to be announcing all the stuff. So how they do that, I don't know. It seems kind of,
Right.
It seems like you'd almost see the stage on the show floor, but we will see soon. In our new games and tech section, I wanted to throw out there, and one of the reasons I mentioned Vive Point Infinity earlier was that, Game of Thrones just ended, right? Now, if there's any kids watching, it's not a kids show, okay? It's a 17 and up show. That said, I think we're all going through withdrawals. So, in any case, there's a new VR experience for Game of Thrones. I don't think they picked the best. I don't think they picked the best location to do it in. You go north of the Wall to fight, I guess, White Walkers. That sounds cold to me.
Well, and not only that, but now you're going to be in VR with nothing but a complete white background. So I don't know how you don't go snowblind right under the visor.
Yeah.
Particularly something like a Rift S, which has very vivid, vibrant colors for something that is not an OLED screen.
So this was announced on all the major sites, and I've asked all the major sites to give us a review because I'm not signing up for $12 a month to play one game if it's not good. We also and I thought this was pretty exciting. So we talked about Battle Royale and how big that is, right? And this new Battle Royale VR Battle Royale shooter, Population One, which looks fun. It looks kind of cheeky too. It's said that it's coming to the Oculus Quest with crossplay with PC players. So we get that article in there. That's kind of exciting because I can see the advantage of not being tethered in a game like that.
Well, right, and so I guess Quest does use Wi-Fi. Does it use both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz bands?
That is a great question. I don't know.
Yeah, it would be interesting because the first thing that jumped in my head is, well, I mean, how are they going to do that? Are they thinking that there would be a bandwidth issue with, well, how do we make sure that the Quests keep up, right, with the PCs? And I was like, well, maybe I don't know. I guess I was thinking crazy things like maybe a Quest would have a PC relaying its information, but I don't know that would work. But
that's a great point. But two things. Number one, Rec Room, massively, I don't want to say massively multiplayer, but multiplayer game at a heart, supports supports Quest Day 1. And the hardware is actually a phone. It's kind of based on phone, right? So it has lots of communication processing power in there. So it must have. I mean, phones are always trying to get you to go Wi-Fi to save on your bill. So the Wi-Fi has to be top notch. I would have to imagine it has to be 5G Wi-Fi, but it has to be. But in any case, I want to kind of slip in to this other game that you had. I didn't get enough chance to read about it before the show, but tell us a little bit about this VR MMORPG in space.
Yeah, so I can't tell you much more about it than you, so I'm probably going to wind up reading a lot directly from the webpage. This caught my eye because just visually there's a lot of the look of it that feels similar to Dark Star 1, which is a early 2000 years space simulation. But Starfighter Infinity is, and I'll just go ahead and read the ad copy directly. Space-based Morpig with a focus on dogfighting style action and exploration. Features a huge array of ships, imaginative weapons, and ship upgrades, with more being added all the time. Explore the galaxy, fight other players, form your own organizations, mine asteroids to craft new items and loot. So it's a big space game with an emphasis on dogfighting, which is why it caught my eye, because of course anything that potentially gives me the excuse to break out a flight control system, and on top of that play that in VR, definitely catches my interest. The game is coming to early access, and it is being unlocked on the 17th of June. I thought I had, I'm not seeing it on the page now. I thought I'd seen where the cost was going to be like $20 in early access, but I'm not positive. 62 playable ships, 550 different items that you can obtain to use to craft new weapons onto your ships. Supports both PvP and PvE. Now it says that it supports keyboard or joypad, no mentions of flight control systems, so that might be a reason. Flight control systems are just joysticks. That might wind up being a reason that might give me cause for pause, but we will have to see.
Yeah, I just want to be very clear because we kind of went from the Quest into the story. This is a Rift and Vive game. So this is a PC game supporting the Vive and Rift. No mention of Windows Mixed Reality in the Steam page. Again, you'll be able to see this by clicking on the link. It's called Starfighter Infinity. If it's $20, I will probably pick it up just to see what it's like. Now, I do want to encourage anybody who wants to do dogfighting in space in VR to try Elite Dangerous on the PC. The big Steam sale, I think it's June 25th, is when it starts, and it goes through July 4th, roughly. And a lot of times Elite Dangerous will be as low as $15. I recommend getting the combo, the complete pack, the Commander Deluxe Edition. But if you wanna, and I was gonna say Zeus, and Aga, if you ever want to go out for a spin, I can put you on one of my ship launch fighters, so you don't even have to worry about spending any money or getting up to speed. We can just go blow stuff up. But it is a premium experience, kind of like Project Cars 2 is a premium racing experience.
Right. And definitely, we will definitely do that one of these days when the magic wheels not trying to be careful how I phrase this. Not not on wife time when you guys are playing. I don't get my free time till later in the evening.
Yeah, and maybe one night we can do it after the show or some, just let me know. I wanted to throw out one more game. A guy I follow, great guy, R.A. Marcus, over, and I probably said that wrong. Over on YouTube, he was playing Quake VR on the Quest, and it just looked like super fun. It just looked super fun to play it in virtual reality. So we'll include a link to that too. And he's a great guy. I highly recommend following him. He's just fun and a great guy to watch. So with that, we're done through the news. Now I want to go into VR experiences and hear about what Sir Aga has been playing this week. Take it away, Sir Aga.
So I'm actually going to start with the second game that I've been playing, Jet X. So Jet X is a mid-April of this year release. It has two key modes to it. It has deathmatch, and then it has the race version, which just sounds crazy weird to me. Like, how do you package a game that has a deathmatch mode, but then the other mode is a racing game? They seem like entirely different design concepts. I've played the least amount of time in the racing game. It plays a little bit like Wipeout, but again, the advent of VR and the fight sticks creates a wildly different dynamic. There are points in the game where the track splits off, and there are two possible paths to follow. And if you consider what VR enables you to take one of those paths, but then look over to your right and aim your motion controller and fire upon a racer traveling along the other path. I don't know if it actually hit, but there was a point a couple nights ago when I was playing where I was moving forward and I took the controller and did a no look fire behind me, one of the weapon power ups that you get. So it's a large degree of mayhem. The deathmatch mode is interesting because it is highly vertical. They put you in an arena essentially, and the arena goes from Z plus down to Z minus like 200 feet. So one of the tactics you can employ is when somebody's on you. There are some limitations and some constraints in the design. I feel like it's very difficult when you're being fired upon to understand who is firing upon you and from what angle, so that you can adjust for it. But you can, one of the tactics I use is, if you're flying along and say then you take somebody out, and like a split second after that you hear that somebody's hitting your shields. One of the things I do is quickly transition and reposition from the floor of the arena to the roof, and just move as quickly as I can directly vertical, in the hopes that that's going to position me better to kind of then do a slow pan around to determine who is firing at me. The overall setup is kind of weird, where you have two weapons in the game, two pistols essentially. The rear of the pistols is what provides your propulsion. So basically, you move when you pull the trigger that is your accelerator. You move in whatever direction you're pointing the weapons, which can sometimes lead to some counterintuitive cognitive gridlock when you get involved in a heavy firefight with enemies and you're trying to. My natural instinct, I don't know where it's coming from, is that I should be moving in the opposite direction that I point the weapons. So I definitely get myself twisted upside down. And as you mentioned, Gray, this is a game that has a high potential to make you very nauseated. You stay in one plane of motion, but outside of that, the degree of freedom you get is almost debilitating, because you get so much freedom that you can get yourself twisted in knots and find it very difficult to recenter and understand where you are on the map and where enemies are.
I'm looking at the price, and it's funny because there's a JetX and then there's a JetX Space Edition. They are both on sale for $10. But if you buy the bundle,
right,
it's $10.
Yeah, yes, and I bought the bundle because I stared at it for several minutes. I'm like, how? Wait, they're selling me the more content thing for the same price that they're selling the standalones, and I didn't understand it, but I was like, well, understand it later. Just buy it at that price right now. I think at the time I was looking at it, we thought that the sale was going to end the day after I picked it up, and it sounds like it's going on a little bit further. But the space version, as far as I understand, and admittedly I haven't played it yet, is kind of like an expansion pack that might add some additional modes, definitely add some additional maps, and definitely add some additional. I think it adds some additional vehicles as well.
I'm not seeing that the Space Edition supports VR, but sometimes it's kind of odd how they do that. But it's actually cheaper to buy the bundle than just to buy JetX.
Right. And I thought the Space Mission one did support VR, but I could have missed that as well. But but like you said, if you offer them each to be at $10 and then offer them both to me at $10, I just went ahead and bought both.
It looks like a fun game.
It is. For me, it was extremely challenging. I spent a lot of time getting my patootie handed to me in deathmatch, just fighting the bots, because again, it's just actually that was a point where I transitioned to that game directly from Overload, which just I had me twisted to knots because I was accustomed to sitting down, being on the flight control system, and having an understanding for the ship's physics and how it would move in comparison to where I could look, and then that model kind of gets turned upside down with your propulsion being provided by these guns. Speaking of the guns, there are 6. The set differentiates a little bit for left-handed versus right-handed. So there are some weapons that you can arm within both hands, but then each also has at least one weapon, maybe two, that you can only arm on the left hand or on the right hand. So all of those constraints and limitations make for some very interesting tactics that you have to devise to, at least in my case, just to survive long enough against the bots for me to feel like, okay, I can go on and try another mode now.
Sweet. And then the other game you had was Overload, which is like Descent. If you watch the videos, it looks just like Descent.
Yeah, and this was my first uh, big PC game experience with the Rift S. It's absolutely amazing. There are a few nitnoids with, every once in a while, like I said, like I've mentioned with other games, I'll get into the cockpit under the visor, and the seat height will be off, right, and we'll have to monkey with it to reset it. I will also mention at this point, one of the things in the ongoing long-term review that I did experience this time with the Rift S is, that thing where I say I have to get up and I have to, everything's connected, but the Rift app indicates that it doesn't have connectivity with something or whatever. At one point during these sessions, I hit a point where I swapped that DisplayPort cable to every DisplayPort that I had like 3 or 4 times, and finally, and then unplugged the USB 3.0 port and plugged it back in. But just had problem after problem after problem with it. Finally, it gave me the option to reset the device, which I did, but then I had to go through that Rift S configuration all over again for it to kind of seemingly for the hardware to bind to the application layer. That being said, that reconfig on Rift S it's the fastest VR experience I've ever had. They do it quickly. They have look in one direction or two directions. Do the floor leveling thing, and then you're off and running. So it was more so the number of times I forced myself to troubleshoot it before I determined that I was going to have to get into the software and make a change. But yeah, that one was a bit, again, it was one of those moments like I had when I first got the Rift S out of the box. I'm like, man, am I going to have to send this thing back? But yeah, I had to spend an extensive amount of time over the last week just monkeying with the Rift S and trying all the tricks I had been trying, and it never like reconnecting or coming back alive. So fortunately, it did recover after that application wipe, and I really haven't had problems that extreme since.
I know, I've had my Rift since 2016, late 2016, and a couple of times I had to reboot the PC. Like I'd plug it in, unplug it, and I just reboot the PC and I fixed it. And I don't know what was going on. I don't know if it had something to do with Steam VR and whatnot, but isn't that like we were? It's like that's a joke, right? In our world, reboot it and it'll work. Um, we played tonight on Star Trek Bridge Crew live from the Oasis. Ocelot and I played Bridge Crew, and we took turns being captain. I was successful as captain. Ocelot, well, we failed the mission that he was the captain of. Now, I'm not saying it had anything to do with him. I kind of think the missions we were doing were kind of weird, but it's one of those. It seems like your classic single player fail or your story mission fail, where we're trying to beam people off this spaceship, and all these Romulans are around, and we're like, well, let's take out the Romulans. And apparently we don't take them out fast enough, or they beam the
Right.
guys off before we
That's the
beam
same
them
one
off.
That's the same one you and I struggled with.
Yeah. And it's
That one
just
night.
like we're kind of like,
Right.
but it's we're getting so good at it, and we're playing a lot of the next generation. And the captain
Yeah.
has a tablet that he can go through all the tabs. I think I like that you just pick up the tablet and you can touch everything, because
Right.
touching your armrest, because I have armrests on my gaming chair, sometimes it's hard because
Right.
all the controls are below. That's maybe something Ubisoft for the next game could fix. Don't put any controls below your typical armrest because it's hard to get your hands past your armrest.
Right.
A lot of the buttons are like right underneath the armrest. It's like, well, how do I get my hand there? But so we had a total blast, a lot of fun. Um, we've been mixing it up quite a bit. We're really waiting for No Man's Sky VR to come out. I think we're going to
Mm.
put some serious time into that. I'm playing some Carnage Chronicles, playing some Trickster. By the way, he did build the AMD PC. Loves it. I know you guys were talking about that over in Discord.
Hmm.
But so that's my experience. We did have some great comments on the last episode. I want to thank folks for that. Due to technical difficulties, we didn't get a chance to copy those into the show notes so we could talk about them. But I just want to thank everybody who comments. I try to read, and if I can't think of anything funny to say, I'll just give you a like. But or if sometimes people make statements and it's like, okay, there's nothing to add to that. But I do read every single comment, so we appreciate when you guys get over there. I know Agalex get over there sometimes too, and talk bounce things back and forth. But we do appreciate you all. Please give us a like if you enjoy the show. We're just here chatting and about VR, and because we love VR, we love uh, talking about the news, we love playing the games and experiencing it, and we want to hear what you're doing. So please share that with us. What have you been playing this week? What are you doing? What are you hopeful for? And we'd love to hear from you. But with that, I'm at the end of the show notes. Did you have anything else, my friend?
No, I did not.
All right. So where can our viewers catch you over the next week or so? What's
Pretty
your
exclusively.
schedule?
Yeah, pretty exclusively on YouTube. So again, I've walked back from other social media outlets, so you can pretty much find me on YouTube and solely on YouTube. So tomorrow we will start our E3 coverage, just in terms of at least homework and pre-work that we have to do. Google is having a Stadia press conference tomorrow at noontime Eastern. So I will be observing that for the purposes of doing the prep for the podcast. Over on the E2KG network channel on YouTube, we are struggling a bit landing exactly on what we do want to do with podcasts. We thought we had it locked down. And then Stadia came along with its last minute announcement of a press conference. And I started looking at the schedule again, and we might be rejiggering it a bit. But in general, we're trying to target 2 shows for next week. It might have to stretch to 3. And we will be talking about everything that we've observed at E3. Contrary to last year's format, what we're not going to do is we are not going to do a complete timeline and chronology walkthrough of each press conference. We will take notes, and we'll be talking about the things that occurred at the press conference that were of particular note to us. We will still talk about the press conferences and our thoughts on the performance of the presenters in general, and the overall effectiveness of it as a marketing piece. But we're not going to do the minute by minute walkthrough in the specific sequence of announcements that were made this year. But yeah, so it's pretty much, so in a nutshell, our E3 week essentially starts next week as far as the increased workload, and then we will cover it on multiple shows next week.
Awesome, awesome. Here on the Gamers Show, Sunday night is Elite Cast night, and now that Commander Ocelot's playing with us on Sunday nights, there's a good chance that we will be trying to help him get ready to take on the Thargoids. So if you watched last Sunday night, we just did some res bounty hunting. It was a lot of fun. We laughed a lot. Um, but doing that, we've done so much of that over the last 3 years. We're actually this next um, this Sunday will be episode 1 of season 3. So those folks who back us over at Patreon / The Gamer Show get episodes every month for free. You can just pick up the whole season if you want to go back and watch them all. I think it's a $15 donation. And when you buy a season of any of our videos, you get them for life. It's lifetime downloads and streaming through Vimeo, who are great people. And or you can just back us $3 a month, join our community, and also get some free downloads every month so you can grab your favorite tips or tricks. But that's what we're going to be doing Sunday. So we may end up helping Ocelot get ready for the Thargoid since he's new to the crew, and he has a Challenger, which is a great ship, but doesn't have all the Thargoid, weaponry. Can't speak. And then Wednesday, before this show. Now we're not live and streaming this yet, just because we're juggling so much. But we will be doing live from the Oasis again. We just did Trickster. We just did Bridge Crew. I don't know. I think it's probably Carnage Chronicles on Wednesday because I think we did Battlezone right before Trickster. So that's what we got coming up. And of course, we're waiting for No Man's Sky VR to come out. We haven't played that in a while. So just waiting for the VR so we can start over. But that's it. So any final words there, Sir Aga? Well, I want to thank you. Go ahead.
No, I just will say thank you for everybody who's been swinging by and show. So keep that up. Tell your friends.
Yes, let us know if you have questions that you want us to weigh in on. Let us know that too, because we just love talking about this stuff. In any case, I am Gray the Gamer here from the Gamers Show. I want to thank Sir Aga for co-hosting like he does every week with me, and just want to wish you all a great week. It's Hump Day, so we're halfway there. And until next time, my friends, peace.